Imagine a $1.2 billion merger on the line. The air in the back seat of the Mercedes was thick with panic. Victoria Sterling, CEO of Sterling Dynamics, was watching her colossal deal crumble because her contracted interpreters had vanished. Desperation clawed at her. Her driver, Jerome Washington, a quiet black man who had served her invisibly for 3 years, reached over to mute the blaring radio. Victoria's reaction was instant, vicious, and a textbook example of corporate snobbery laced with ugly racism. "Keep your monkey hands off my car." The words landed with the stinging force of a physical blow. Jerome's hand froze midair. "You think because you drive my Mercedes, you get to touch my things?" Her voice dripped with poison. "You're the help. Stay in your lane. Matter of fact, put the partition up. I'm tired of seeing your face in my mirror." The glass barrier hissed up, a physical manifestation of the invisible wall of prejudice Victoria had built. Jerome gripped the wheel, his jaw tight. Behind that wall of contempt was a man Victoria had never bothered to see: 3 years of Stanford education. 5 languages mastered at Georgetown. 2 decades of decorated diplomatic service. All of it, rendered invisible by a uniform and a racist, corporate mindset. Behind the sliding partition, Victoria's crisis spiraled. "What do you mean all 3 interpreter services are booked? Richard, this is a $1.2 billion deal." Her voice cracked with genuine terror. Jerome watched her in the rear-view camera, a corporate titan reduced to a caged animal, her desperation palpable. Sterling Dynamics was mere months from bankruptcy. This merger wasn't a win, it was survival, with 200 jobs, including Jerome's, hanging by a thread. As Victoria's calls led to dead end after dead end, her hands shaking as she dialed, Jerome made a quiet decision that would alter the course of her company, and his life. He lowered the partition. "Excuse me, Ms. Sterling. What languages do you need?" Victoria's head whipped around, fury turning to frozen shock. "I told you to." "Japanese and Mandarin," Jerome continued quietly. "Hindi, Korean." Something in his calm, professional tone caught her breath. He wasn't speaking as a driver. Victoria stared as Jerome continued, his voice leveling with confident, cultured authority. "You speak Japanese fluently, along with Mandarin, Hindi, Korean, Arabic, Portuguese, French, German, and Spanish." The air went silent. Victoria's phone slipped from her hand. "You're telling me you speak 9 languages?" she barely whispered. The Nakamura Singh delegation was ringing. Victoria, paralyzed by the gravity of the call and her lack of an interpreter, could only stare at the phone. "May I?" Jerome's hand extended. Pride battled desperation, and desperation won. She handed over the phone. "Moshi Moshi Nakamura-san," Jerome answered. The change was immediate. Gone was the careful deference of a driver. In its place was a commanding authority. Jerome seamlessly switched between languages, technical terms like patent licensing and intellectual property flowing effortlessly. He covered the mouthpiece. "There's been a cultural misunderstanding," he explained to a stunned Victoria. "They're insulted by your previous communications. They think you view them as subordinates, not partners." In a few masterful minutes, Jerome used his deep cultural intelligence to not just translate, but to perform diplomacy. He told the executives that Sterling Dynamics deeply respects their family business legacy and that you've been personally studying Japanese business customs to show proper honor. "But I haven't," Victoria protested. "You have now," Jerome said simply. 20 minutes later, he handed the phone back. "The merger discussion is back on track." Pulling into the parking garage, Victoria stared at the man who had just saved her company. "Who are you?" she asked, using his name for the first time in 3 years. Jerome's quiet facts hit her like physical blows: PhD in International Relations from Georgetown, Master's in Applied Linguistics from Harvard, 22 years as a senior diplomatic translator for the State Department. He specialized in high-stakes multinational negotiations, G7 summits, and crisis mediation, having translated for 3 presidents. His position was cut during budget reconciliation 3 years ago. I needed work immediately. Your mother's medical bills. Cancer treatment. My daughter's medical school tuition. He applied for over 300 positions. Overqualified, too old, too specialized. He became a driver to survive. Every insult, every dismissal, every time you threw your briefcase at me like I was furniture, I chose to believe that someday someone would need what I actually know. And that day was today. In a tense board meeting, Victoria's executives, Marcus Hendricks, David Carter, and Susan Walsh, questioned Jerome's suitability, revealing their own ingrained prejudice. The Japanese expect a certain level of professionalism. We can't show up with someone who looks like, Walsh trailed off. Like what, Susan? Victoria shot back. Jerome calmly dismantled their concerns, displaying an encyclopedic knowledge of Ugan summer protocols, correct ray angles for executives, and Zaseki positioning, details that silenced the entire executive team. He had negotiated the 2019 Tokyo Trade Framework and mediated a major banking dispute. 7 executives realized they had questioned someone more qualified than all of them combined. The next morning, before the final meeting, Victoria called an emergency board session. She pulled up Jerome's State Department commendations, presidential citations, and personal letters of recommendation from a former Japanese prime minister on the screen. For 3 years, we've employed one of America's most accomplished diplomats. Victoria's voice carried quiet fury, and we used him to drive me to coffee meetings. She clicked on a new document. Jerome Washington is promoted to Senior Vice President of International Relations. Salary $180,000 plus equity. Reporting directly to me. The transformation was complete. Jerome walked into the conference room, no longer the invisible driver, but an executive, an equal. The final meeting was a masterclass in diplomacy. Jerome saved the deal multiple times, resolving a sudden IP protection crisis with Ms. Singh in Hindi, assuaging Mr. Nakamura's cultural fears by sharing a story of post-war partnership in Japanese, and solving a potential patent conflict in Mandarin by demonstrating superior technical knowledge. Mr. Nakamura stood and bowed formally to Jerome, a gesture of profound respect between equals, and presented him with a priceless, antique business card case, a family heirloom. Ms. Singh asked him to be their keynote speaker at their global conference. The deal was saved, $1.2 billion secured, and 200 jobs were safe. In a final, emotional announcement, Victoria promoted him again, Executive Vice President of Global Relations, $280,000 salary, and an equity package that made him the 3rd largest individual shareholder in the company. Say you'll help me become the leader I should have been all along, Victoria pleaded. Say you'll help me build a company that sees people the way you helped me see you, she replied. Jerome's victory was complete. He called his daughter, telling her that her dream of being a pediatric oncologist was fully funded. He had not only saved a company but had proven that worth isn't measured by a uniform or title but is revealed by character and competence. This is the end of the story, but the beginning of a new era, one where prejudice is shattered, and hidden talent is finally seen. That's the incredible story of the underdog who became the ultimate company savior. Drop a comment below and let me know where in the world you're watching this from. I love seeing how far our community reaches. If this story of poetic justice and an underdog's ultimate comeback moved you, smash that like button and subscribe to Story Phil so you don't miss our next tale of triumph.